Good morning, Great Britain. With everybody fighting amongst themselves, a government and press that aren't that reliable, the LGB this and the Muslims that, I was hoping we could have our say. I'm supposed to be able to add a few things that might help, and I think we can. First off, rearrange things back to the classic battle of good and evil, the priest and the pimp. The priest says, say what you mean what you say, everything else comes from evil. And then there's a flip-flop, and then the other side is a pimp. And he knows how to manipulate, intimidate, hustle, and con. He doesn't lie, he just doesn't tell the truth. And he represents the bad guys. And in psychology, both the Catholic and the atheist define mental illness as the normal taken into the abnormal. From a cold to the flu to pneumonia. The Catholics say, go back to normal, and the normal is normal but not good enough. For example, those very strong emotions that fly through a young man's head when it comes to the gals. Well, associating those emotions with actually getting her pregnant isn't a natural thing at all, and now I understand what original sin is. And in philosophy, God and country, straightening up my emotions, willing the good of another person, and doing it because Christ rose on the third day are those three things in a shop manual fashion that make up God and country. And in courts, judges here in the United States wear black robes because Catholic priests 500 years ago in England wore black robes. You have a judicial court to establish facts that are true as true, and that's as opposed to a sophistical court to establish facts that aren't true as true. And that's all a religious thing. And in economics, there's home economics, and that's where the married couple is viewed as the basic economic building block. It's what gets you out of poverty and into plenty. Picture a 1950s American detached house with a living room to live in, a bedroom, a dining room to eat in, and a kitchen to service the dining room, and a backyard and a garage. This is the smallest economic thing, and this is what puts you into a world of plenty. Now, picture a couple inside that house. Go out to the side and start with farming and mining, then above that manufacturing, and above that wholesale, retail, and repair, and above that retirement, education, and recreation. And doctors and lawyers form a kind of lattice that holds it all together, and the Catholic priest is what causes everything to come into being to begin with. This is God and country, and this is what worked so well. This is what gave society a huge middle class, and kids with shoes on their feet, and everybody living in a world they describe in terms of plenty. This was all thrown out, and in case you hadn't figured it out yet, it isn't going to work out. If you're a young man, you're not going to make enough money to support a wife and children. And if you're a single mom, you're not going to be able to, it's physically impossible for you to raise a child and work all day. And yes, to very much mention the fact that your paycheck just isn't going to cover the bills. We'll keep this up. For example, when it comes to reparations, there's nothing keeping the Muslims from giving the Brits back their Suez Canal and those oil wells. They built them. You built them. And when it comes to women's liberation movement, they didn't discriminate in favor of women or against women, but rather in favor of women who were malicious and against women who practiced virtues. Right now, I need your help. We're going to have our own podcast starting the 21st at 7 p.m. London time, that's a Saturday, and then 4 p.m. Sunday afternoon London time, and then next Friday at 7 p.m. in the evening. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays to get started, hopefully. And we'll gather our gang together. You're going to have to join this gang in the playground and start commenting in. I'm a young single mother with a 2-year-old that's living in Tollsbury, and my little man is being raised by somebody else. He doesn't even recognize me. And how much money do you make? I don't make enough money to pay for rent and daycare and groceries. It just doesn't work out, and it doesn't work out. So how much money do you make? Where do you live? And how much money does it take to get the bills paid? And the same with the young man. How many hours do you have to work in order to come across with a household budget that gets you and your wife and children out of poverty and into plenty, into that detached American house, into home economics? And that's the thing we have to do. We have to start putting numbers to this. We have to gather our gang together and start describing things in a very practical fashion. And then ask, what's wrong? We know what's wrong. They threw out God and country. What do I do about it? I go back to home economics. And how do I do it? Well, that's for you and us to decide. So pass the word, doing those things you do. The podcast and YouTube channel is called A Priest and a Pimp. And hopefully we'll see you starting the 21st at 7 p.m. London time. See you.